Now, tens of thousands of Liberians today witnessed the swearing-in of George Weah as the new president of Liberia at a packed stadium on the outskirts of Monrovia. The former international footballer was chosen by voters last month to replace Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. It's the first time Liberia has seen a peaceful transition of power in more than 70 years. The BBC's Tamsin Ford reports from Monrovia.
It's going to be the biggest match of his life. From Africa's first elected female head of state to the continent's first football head of state. Expectations are high, but his fans are confident.
I'm here because of George Weah. I love him so much. Yeah, know that he's from we are poor people. That is why I'm here. I'm here because of my country. Yeah, know that he will do more for us. That is why I'm here. I'm so happy.
George Weah made his fame in Europe in the 90s. Meanwhile, Liberia was battling 14 years of civil war.
As Liberia's flag is raised, George Weah is sworn in as Liberia's 24th president of Liberia. And what better place to do it than a football stadium? Africa's most celebrated footballer is now the 24th president of Liberia. Fans here are euphoric. They've slept overnight to catch a glimpse of the country giant, as he's called here. But they're desperate that his glittering football success can be translated off the pitch.
It is my belief that the most effective way to directly impact the poor and to narrow the gap between the rich and poor is to ensure that public resources do not end up in the pocket of government officials.
Weah's presidency marks the first peaceful handover of power in Liberia for more than 70 years. He was an inspiration on the pitch. Now there's huge pressure to do the same in politics. Tamsin Ford, BBC News, Monrovia, Liberia.
Well, Mr. Weah's election is the latest extraordinary chapter in Liberia's history, a history of great resilience. Here's our Africa editor, Fergal Keane.
George Weah inherits a nation still struggling with the legacy of war. Nearly two-thirds of the population lives below the poverty line. In Claratown, the slum where he grew up, they're hoping he'll bring jobs, healthcare, housing.
When you come here to the streets where George Weah grew up, the scale of problems facing Liberia is very clear. For any kind of meaningful change to take place, peace is essential. And this is a generation that has grown up without knowing war, in a country that was once a byword for anarchy.
In 14 years of war, 250,000 people were killed. Child soldiers like Joseph Duo became symbols of pitiless violence. Today, he's one of those looking to George Weah in hope. Like his nation, Joseph is scarred by the past, but determined not to repeat it.
President, they agreed to send the free slaves to Africa.
Doing homework with his children, Joseph's life challenges those who would write off a nation, even a continent, as failed.
What do you hope George Weah can do for you?
We hope that he design programs.
We hope he will design programs and bring investors, Joseph tells me, so there will be jobs and we can have a better Liberia than before. Expectations are high. Can George Weah possibly meet them, I asked.
I know I'm going to meet the expectation because the one thing, when people love you, you have to strive for them. Liberians love me, what I've done before in my life. And to make sure that they are okay, I'm going to do it again.
Football teaches that you can't succeed alone, and the new president has the people on side. But more than anything now, George Weah is going to need their patience. Fergal Keane, BBC News, Monrovia.
Let's talk a little bit more about this historic day in Liberia. With me is Ismail Olawale. He's a senior researcher from the African Leadership Centre at King's College London. Thank you for coming in to talk to us.
Thank you.
Sorry, it's Olawale Ismail, isn't it? That's correct.
Yeah.
Now, this is a day that in many ways George Weah is used to. He's used to having a stadium full of people expecting things from him. The expectations are very different this time. Are they too high?
Yes and no. I think in terms of leadership, in terms of bringing probity, morality to public office, I think that is not a big ask. But in terms of transforming the lives of Liberians overnight, given the enormity of the problem, the level of poverty is still extremely very high. About 2/3 of the population live below $1.25 a day. Similarly, about 1/3 of children are only enrolled in school, meaning that about 2/3 are out of school. And then youth unemployment is extremely very high. How do you overcome all these challenges? The outgoing president, Salif Johnson, did her best to stabilize the country, achieve some progress on some macroeconomic indicators. But the core of the problem remains. And the Ebola outbreak in 2014 has not really helped matters.
And as you've mentioned, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, the outgoing president, has tried, and she's a former finance minister. She used to work with the World Bank. She's a consummate professional. What will George Weah be able to do differently from her?
I think the analogy of George Weah being sworn in a stadium that he's used to, which is his natural habitat. I think we can also borrow or pick up, a few ideas in terms of George Weah the footballer and George Weah the politician. He would need all the skills of teamwork, of being a leader. He led the Liberian national team. He led by example. He did a lot of personal sacrifice. He bankrolled the national team.
Critics are saying you can't compare that to running an entire country.
Yes, but I think you still, basic skills about leadership in that sense, to be able to connect with your followers, to be able to have what we call mutuality of expectation and interest between the leader and the led, to be able to have a shared vision, a shared agenda for transforming Liberia. I think he has that. I think he will bring that. What I think he will struggle with, which you have alluded to, is the problems of Liberia, problems about infrastructure, problems about youth unemployment, problems about, growing the economy, problems about bringing in investment,
things that won't really go away.
I mean, those things will not go away, but I'm an optimist.
Yes. You're an optimist. We'll have to leave it there.
And
thank you very much.
If Weah can do what he's done with the national team, and he's been able to mobilize the Liberian people up to this moment, I think he can also mobilize them in a different direction.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Olawole Ismail.